IAC announcing second quarter results after Wednesday's close, posting a beat on earnings and revenue. The company also announced considerations to spin off two of its largest subsidiaries, Match and Angie's List. And Tom here has brought a special guest.
Joey Levin, CEO of IAC.
Tom?
Why are you guys thinking about spinning off Match and Angie Home Services?
Look, we've always thought about spinning off our businesses. We've spun off, I think there's now 9 businesses out of what was one IAC 15 years ago. So in some sense, it's not really news because we're always thinking about it. I'd say right now we've taken more serious steps, and that means thinking about it more pointedly. What happened is we looked at Match, and Match is just doing phenomenally well, and big business, standing on its own, and starting to really consume the entire IAC story in a very good way, but casting a shadow over the rest of IAC. And when we look at that, we think, okay, now may be a good time to do it. We started to think about that in Match, and we said, well, if we're going to do Match, do we then start thinking about Angie? And as we started to develop those conversations, we realized both of these are public companies. We're about to go out to earnings. And now that we're really thinking about this, it's probably appropriate that we tell our shareholders in the spirit of transparency.
How far down the road are you? I mean, if this were, I hate the baseball metaphor, but if this were a baseball game, what inning are we in terms of the consideration to spin off these companies?
I'd say if we're perpetually in the top of the first, we're maybe now in the bottom of the first. But that's an advancement, but I'd say we're early, yeah.
By saying this and saying it publicly, though, and sort of raising your hand saying we're thinking about it,
yep.
Does this effectively invite, and are you inviting potential suitors to call you on the phone and say, hey, if you're thinking about spinning this off, we might be interested in actually buying it from you?
I suppose that's possible. I think that's unlikely. I mean, it's not a tax efficient thing to do that way. We don't typically sell assets. We typically give them to our shareholders. That's what we've done historically. I suppose anything is possible, but I'd say not likely.
When you look at your businesses, is it kind of a conglomerate discount, and therefore by breaking these out more clearly, and that you get a better valuation for the entire entity? Is that
Sure.
the way you think about it? Or?
I mean, that's in the consideration set. Right now, IAC has $27 billion worth of just cash and liquid security assets between our Match stake, our Angie stake, and literally cash net of debt. That's $27 billion. Our market cap is $22 billion. That is a $5 billion discount. That's before you get to all the businesses in IAC, which are businesses that some of them are generating real cash flow, some of them are building real asset value, still in their development stage. So that is a component. It's not the only component, but it's something that certainly goes into the soup when we think about this.
If I'm the shareholder, I see real pros and cons. I like IAC being involved in these businesses. You guys have a proven ability to grow businesses. I like that you're the chairman of Match, you're the chairman of Angie. Conversely, perhaps having its own cost of capital and its 100% focus on the IAC business, those businesses will do better apart, but I don't know how to weigh that. Do shareholders come down on both sides?
Look, I don't think it's why we spend a lot of time thinking about it. It's why these things are difficult decisions. There are definitely benefits to both. The one thing that does happen and has happened historically is, when we spun off 4 businesses in 2008, the story on what was left in IAC was not an exciting story at that point. It was, what are all these businesses? Are they anything? And can you turn them into anything? And it turns out we turned them into, from really almost nothing to Match, now a $25 billion business, Angie, now a $7 billion business, and putting that focus on the smaller businesses has some value. But, Match and Angie are also at different stages, so we're going to think about those two differently.
So in the consideration to spin these companies off, you also said in your earnings call that it's going to be an investment period for you in terms of investing in the various smaller businesses like a Vimeo,
Sure.
Dash, and as well as Angie's, I think, international business. And I'm wondering if that at all changes how you think about the timing and the timeline for these spin-offs. Do you want to be doing those things consecutively, overlapping, or do you want to spin off and then invest, as you said before, which would mirror the last time you spun a company off?
Don't know yet. Those are premature questions. I think valid questions for sure. Just we haven't figured out the answer to that. I think the most obvious candidate for a spin is Match. Match is much further along in its life, its development, in its size, in its scale relative to the rest of IAC. Angie is still developing some things.
So Match, you might be at the top of the. You might be at the top of the second on Match, and Angie in the bottom of the first.
I'd say I wouldn't put them in different innings, but I would say that they have different consideration sets that we're thinking about in that.
So my initial reaction when I heard you were contemplating this is today is your last day in your 30s.
That's true.
Tomorrow's your 40th birthday, and this was your semi-retirement plan to get off the chairmanship of Match and Angie, but that has nothing to do with it.
That has nothing to do with it.
What are you going to do with all? What are you going to do with all your time in your 40s?
I don't know. I got to. Hopefully, I'll be very busy, and maybe at some point try and get decent at golf. But I don't. That's not happening soon.
We wish you luck in your golf game.
Thank you.
Joey, thank you.
Joey
Levin of
birthday,
IAC.